right, here it is. We have our special long-awaited episode. This is a combination of movies on a Monday and TV guys, because today we are talking about the Loki season finale. Oh, everybody goes wild. Yeah, Loki, it happened a couple weeks ago, but that's okay because we're talking about it right now. There you go. There's the intro.
And that was Terrence. And I'm Matt.
I'm Brian. I'm also here.
And I'm a variant of Matt.
Oh, from a different podcast?
Exactly. Yep.
We talked about how we get to kill one of the Matts.
Oh, no, I didn't agree to that. See, there's Matt from the TV Guys podcast, and then there's Matt from Movies on the Monday podcast. So you've got both Matts here. How's it going, Matt? It's going well, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to stop that bit right now. No, I say no to that bit. It's fired. No.
You just don't want us to take extra time because someone's got a movie to get to.
No, I'm saying no because I don't like that bit. No, Matt. You take your variant self on out of here, okay?
Fine. I wasn't going to do anything else with that bit either. So we love, like all of us, we're Marvel fans. We love the TV shows. We love the movies. And so when there's a TV show, it ties into the movies. And so, of course, we have to talk about it on both of these because it affects both TV and movies. And so let's give, first of all, just our overall feel about Loki. What did you guys think of the show?
I'll let you go, Brian.
I liked it better than Falcon and Winter Soldier, but not quite as good as WandaVision. That's kind of where I would rank it. Because towards the beginning, I think it had a strong start, and I think it kind of went down a little bit, and then it had a strong finish. Like the middle couple episodes, I was starting to not be super interested, but then the last 4 or 5, I don't know how they were, but those were strong.
Wow.
There was one episode that I felt like I wasn't as interested in that as I was in the other episodes, and that was episode 3, the one that didn't have Owen Wilson in it. Guys, he's the key to all of it. I would have watched just Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston go back and forth in a room for 6 episodes. I would have watched that because they were so funny together.
Yeah, you know why I'm gonna have to disagree with you, Brian, on that one. I feel I think this was the best of the Marvel shows so far. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was 2. WandaVision is 3. Just because I tried to watch WandaVision going back, to me, I think it was the excitement of all waiting so long to get something Marvel. And yeah, it's different, but I feel like WandaVision wasted so many episodes before it got good. Don't get me wrong, it's a good show. I really like it. But if I had to rank them, WandaVision for me, it just wasted too many episodes. I felt like the minute that I think even the second episode of Loki, when that kicked off, it was like, wow, okay. And especially after he first meets what's her name again?
Sylvie.
Sylvie, there we go. After he meets her, every episode for me after that was awesome. It was just perfect. Great. Let's keep this going.
I would, and I have a different ranking. I'd say Loki, WandaVision, Falcon, Winter Soldier. So all 3 of us, we have our own little ranking system here. That's cute, guys. It's cute.
There you go.
Shoot. No, I honestly, I think I wasn't expecting Loki to have such huge ramifications that it did. WandaVision had some ramifications, yes. And I think it's a good, when we see Wanda show back up and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I think that's going to be cool to go, oh yeah, I remember when that happened, this is how she got here. But Loki, I was not expecting to see the big villain that's going to be the big villain in the whole Marvel universe. I did not expect to see how all of it would go back to this moment right here. And I loved how it connected. I don't know if you guys have watched other people talk about Loki and WandaVision, but that last couple minutes actually line up with the same couple minutes.
I was just going to mention that, yeah.
Yeah, that WandaVision does. And it's really
Mm-hmm.
cool to go, oh my gosh, like this, I don't know how they thought this all through. Not even thought it all through, but can you imagine getting that timing down right for each show? Like each one has its own separate beats, but then when it gets to that ending point where all of a sudden he's counting down and then you got WandaVision, she's figuring out her powers. How do you time that so well together? That's crazy, but they did it.
I don't think they did that on purpose. I think that they'll watch that and be like, oh, wow, those did tie together well. Because, I mean, the TVA is, let's be honest, they're outside of time. Like, sure, the timing would exist. Like, it's kind of cool to put them together and be like, oh, that's kind of cool. But let's be honest, it's a little like conspiracy theory type to be like, oh, they did this.
You
They
think
planned it
so?
all along. I do. I don't. I think they definitely have that in mind of like when that happens, that's complete ramification for everything, and that like now they can do anything. Now that they've unleashed the multiverse, this was their way to say there's a reason why there hasn't been any multiverses in the past and why you haven't seen that crossover and pop up. But now we're doing away with that, and it can retroactively go back to any point to say, well, yeah, now that Netflix Daredevil, he's showing up in here now. Oh, those X-Men owned by Fox, now those same ones are popping up here. You can get those same actors if you want, or you can replace them and just be like, it's a new multiverse, whatever.
But I could see them using the multiverse and all the different variant timelines to use excuses in the future to bring back characters who are dead. Like they could bring back, or they could use that when they're bringing back Vision or Gamora or whoever else. Oh, it's because of the timelines now.
I don't think they go that cheap with it, where they'll start bringing back. I think it is a smooth move to bring back those characters that are not in the MCU, but now it's like, yeah, we could pull those in. And they've already said that Kingpin is definitely coming back. I think he's in the Hawkeye show. Like, that's not even like speculative. That's like, it is happening.
And he's a great actor. He's a great version of Kingpin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think if they go that cheap with it, then it will cheapen everything else. But I think, I don't know. I would argue with you, Matt, that let's say
real
that
quick,
like,
before you argue with me, I just want to point out they are doing it with Gamora as we speak. They have a version of Gamora that's out of time. So they are doing it, but they can't do it with every single person, which I think maybe is where you're going with.
I think that's totally different, though. I think Gamora was like, that was like into the story. That was already built into the story. Yeah. They're not trying to do something retroactively. It was built in to be like that.
All right. I disagree, but that's fine. Go ahead.
How can you disagree with that? It's so true. When they put the two movies together, they planned it all out. Like that,
no, they did plan that out. I mean, for the whole purposes of what you're saying, I don't think people are going to view it as cheap to be like, oh, Gamora is back, even though it's not really Gamora. It's this other timeline Gamora version. It's the same idea, even though they're not saying, oh, it's multiverse. It's timeline. It's the same idea to me, and I don't feel like people...
I don't think so, because that whole movie, the whole next movie of Guardians of the Galaxy, is actually banking on that this is a different Gamora than what we've seen, and Peter Quill has to deal with that. I think from what I hear you saying, it's like, oh yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio, he just shows up as Kingpin, and we brought him back, and everything's normal. But the story is not based off of him coming back. Like, it's just some smooth thing. But with Gamora, the whole story is based off of her now not being the same Gamora. Two totally different ways here.
So you're... Brian, were you going to say something?
I think I was, but I forget what. But I was going to say, in general, one thing I really liked about Loki from the very start, it seemed like the first time that he was really like out of his element and not having the upper hand. Because seems like throughout the MCU, even when he's losing, Loki is always able to manipulate and somehow have the upper hand. And like when you see when he's going in the TVA, his powers don't work, and like Infinity Stones are just like paperweights. He realizes, okay, I don't know what the crap's going on here, and it's like the first time he's really experienced that to that level, I think.
Yeah, I did like how we like, if you think about it, we've seen Loki now for 10 years plus.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they were able to like give him something new to work with, and we saw a different side of his character, that actually was pretty cool. And
Yeah.
I didn't think it was totally out of line of his character and how he reacted to things.
I really like that we got to see multiple versions of him, where it's like the whole metaphorical sense of the theming is, how does this character reconcile the turmoil within? Because even though he's a god of mischief, he's also a god of mischief in his own like self identity. He's like, I should be on the throne, I should be ruling, etc. And like he has this projection of who he is, but really on the inside, he's still that kid of like, I want my dad to love me, I want to be liked, I want appreciation, I just want acceptance. And he was struggling with even being able to accept himself, which is why he puts all this pain on others. And so I feel like that's why it's so important that, like, it doesn't work practically. My wife was like, oh, that's a little weird, that's like he fell in love with Sylvie, like falling in love with a version of himself. But the theme of it is learning how to love yourself. And I'm like, that's a really good idea to take for this complex character. And then to also show him when he gets pruned and he sees the old version of himself, of seeing like, well, this is what you could be. This is the power you could tap into. This is the characterization that you could have of actually knowing how to do the right thing and staying away and like realizing the sacrifice. And by the way, the most emotional, this also was emotional for me. This had like, when they pruned Owen Wilson, I'm like, no, I thought he was dead. And I was like, I almost teared up. I'm like, no, I loved him. And then to hear old Loki's story of like, they were better off without me. I just had to fake dead and go off to a planet in exile because everyone was better without me. I'm like, oh, this guy hurt my heart.
Well, for me, it was, matter of fact, the first time, I think it was the first episode where they showed him what happens to him in the future. Like, oh my gosh, Tom Hiddleston did such a good job acting, and it was a really good writing method of catching up the character. It's like, okay, we know we killed that other guy, but we got to catch this character up. And it was cool to see like him watch all these things that can happen. Like, to me, that was the most emotional part. I was like, oh my gosh, he just learned that he was responsible for killing his mom, or he was happy that he was actually being able to share those moments with his brother. But this one won't ever get to do that. I was like, that is so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like tearing up when it was Odin and Thor and him from Ragnarok. But it's like, you wouldn't have expected 2012 Loki to like be tearing up like that.
No.
Man, what a week this guy had. Goes from being sucked into New York, delivers his whole plan, gets beat down by the Hulk to a point within an inch of his life, gets kidnapped, gets his powers taken away, almost dies countless times, and falls in love, and then his love betrays him. Like, what? Poor guy. That was a bad week.
Well, you know what? Here's my question. Do you guys think that Loki will show up in Thor Love and Thunder?
Maybe. He'll at least be mentioned.
I think, yeah, I'm sure they'll mention him. I think that they have to try and do this continuation of like, let's try and keep the TV shows a little separate still. Because if you're going to bring Loki back in, then you have to explain why he's back in and why he's still alive for all the people who didn't watch Loki. Because they're going to have to do some version of that when they reintroduce Kang into the MCU. They're going to have to be like, oh, by the way, this is his stuff. And they kind of have to do that with a lot of these movies. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, they introduced all the stones and they gave like this exposition about all the Infinity Stones, even though we've already seen some stones in the universe, and even though we already knew a bit about that from other movies. So I think Love and Thunder is already going to have a lot going on in it to bring back Loki and to be like, oh, by the way, let's take a moment and explain how he got here. I don't think that will work.
Yeah, well, but they've been able to do that before. Like, I was rewatching some of Infinity War, and they actually were able to do it pretty well with trying to catch up Bruce Banner because he's been gone for how many movies, and it didn't
Oh, yeah.
seem like a big recap for us. There's little moments here and there. He's like, wait, there's a Spider-Man and an Ant-Man, and like different stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, they actually did do a really good job. Like, this is the first time I actually thought about it, like on a writing aspect of just, oh yeah, they did have to catch up everybody that did not watch all those other movies and where he was at, and it was seamless. Yeah. That's good.
And he was like, yeah, he was also like, wait, the Avengers broke up like a band, like the Beatles.
They have like some of the most genius writers on their staff, especially if you think of Marvel kind of like McDonald's when it comes to like making movies. I obviously think it's better than McDonald's, but think about it. They do have a formula. They do have like a big, like kind of like a machine to put it out, but they do such a good job on now having like making each movie be its own movie. And so I'm like, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. I'm going to say something controversial now. Jonathan Majors.
It better not. If I ever see The Rock in a Marvel movie, I will flip a lid, okay?
Jonathan Majors, when we first saw him on screen, I'm like, I'm not buying the acting. I wasn't buying into his character.
What? You guys should see Terrence's face right now.
What?
I was like, there are some that you're like, oh my gosh, this guy, like every second of Michael B. Jordan in Black Panther, for instance, you're like, this guy is on fire. Or like every second of Loki in any ones where he was the villain, you're like, this is such a like interesting character. I'm looking at Kang and I'm like, his story is interesting, but his acting, I'm not like drawn into it yet.
Whoa, Matt. Okay, think about what you just said right here. Number one, Kang, like this is a different version of Kang. Think about how long Jonathan Majors is going to have to play Kang and how many different versions. We already know we have to see at least 2, if not 3 different versions of a Kang that he's playing.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not saying like, oh, Jonathan Majors is a bust. He shouldn't be. I'm just saying this version. I was like, okay, I'm waiting to just be like captivated by your acting, and I'm not yet.
I disagree. I thought it was amazing how like it was like he was sinister, but he wasn't sinister, and you could tell like there was something more going on, and there's even a moment where you're like, I really don't know. I don't know if he's telling the truth. Like his whole like stick that he was being as like this aloof person. I love that. I thought it was amazing. What about you, Brian?
I thought he was good. I mean, I didn't have as strong feelings of either of you in either direction, but I thought he was good.
I am other versions I do because, like, to be honest about Kang in the comic books, his storylines are always interesting, but the characterization of Kang was always like a megalomaniac, and that's not always super interesting. So you're like, okay, your character kind of sucks, but the stuff you're doing is really interesting, and it creates a lot of really good problems. And so, like, I'm interested to see because I don't think they're going to go like, let's just make him megalomaniac because obviously they already haven't. But like that's part of the genius writing we were talking about with, like, for instance, Thanos. Thanos was a really good villain, and then in Endgame they go back in time, bring this new Thanos back, and that Thanos actually gets to be like that megalomaniac type. But you don't care about that because you have all this other stuff invested in the other stories you've seen of Thanos up to that point. So, like, I think they're going to do that with this Kang of, like, have all these different versions, and then when they bring in the version that's like, I just want to see the world burn, you're like, okay, whatever, because I've seen all this other characterization of you. That's fine. They need someone
I don't know. I think it'll be a cross between like not only him being these characters, but also looking different. I think that goes a long way in taking in someone's character. I think with Thanos, it was still the same Thanos. I think you're absolutely right. It was like he looked the same. He was essentially the same, but just like an earlier version. But I think with Kang, there's so many different things that you can do to make him look more menacing, and I think that's what they're going to play up with it. And so I don't know. I'm really, really interested to see what kind of king we're going to get, because remember with Thanos, they didn't even know what they were doing first at the beginning of everything. They're just like, I don't know, stick him in there. Like the way he was in Guardians of the Galaxy, it was no way like he turned out to be. But now that they have a solid plan with King, like what kind of King are we going to get in Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania? Like he's got to play off of all that funny. So of course we're going to get a really serious King. That's what I think.
Is he going to be in like everything? Because like Thanos wasn't in every movie.
I don't think he will be.
Yeah, I think he'll pop up in a good amount of stuff, and he's one of those that's like he can pop up anywhere, or he can just be like the one orchestrating a bunch of stuff behind the scenes, and then in the end credit sequence, you see, oh, by the way, it was him set up for the next one, something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, let's real quick end with this. Everyone, we'll start with Terrence. What was your favorite scene of Loki of all the episodes? Top scene.
Minus the one that I mentioned about him going through an emotional journey. I would say the coolest one for me, and I know this is gonna, I really do just like the ending battle where it was. I like that last episode where it wasn't a lot of fighting. It was a lot of talking, and that drew me in because I'm a big Quentin Tarantino fan, and so I love dialogue. I love like when you have intense like, and I felt like that with that episode.
How about you, Brian?
It's more like a scene. I really liked the scene when old Loki reproduced Asgard.
Yeah, that was cool. To see what Loki
that was cool.
Full of. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I liked in that same episode, I really liked all the Lokis are in one place and they all start betraying each other. And then like our Loki's kind of like, what is this? Like, what are you guys doing? You're all immature. And like this realization of like, oh, that's what I'm like? Well, that sucks.
Are you guys in or out on Alligator Loki?
In.
I'm in.
It's all right. It didn't really do much except for bite his arm, but
it didn't have to.
I'm indifferent. Whatever.
I like Owen Wilson's stuff about him when he's trying like to clarify how they know it's Loki. It's like what? Because he's green? I don't. What?
Oh goodness! I'm excited for season 2. I don't know necessarily where they're going to take it, especially after a few movies, but I'm excited for it.
Is this the first one that's confirmed to season 2? I know WandaVision is done. Was Falcon and Winter Soldier done? Yeah,
it's done. They're going to continue his story in Captain America 4.
Okay.
And What If, that series that by the time we post this episode, we'll probably already have episodes of What If online. But that one is already confirmed for a second season as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time, thank you everyone for listening. This has been Movies on Guys.
Oh.
Nope, that doesn't work.
Nope.
I'm Matt.
I'm Terrence.
I'm Brian. I waited this time.
And I'm a Matt variant. And we're reminding you to stay tuned watching.
I hate you.
You brought it back.